The collective had controlled the galaxy for 3,000 years. Their fleets were the largest. Their weapons were the most powerful. Their empire stretched across thousands of star systems. Every species in the galaxy knew the name of the collective. They knew what it meant to face them in battle. Queen Vethra ruled the collective with absolute power. She sat on a throne made from the strongest metals in existence. She wore a crown that showed her position to all beings. For 50 years, she had led her people through war and peace. Her decisions shaped the fate of trillions of lives. But on this day, everything began to fall apart. The alarm came at dawn cycle. The human fleet had arrived at the station. Not one ship. Not two ships. Hundreds of human warships surrounded the massive orbital platform. On every screen in the command center, human vessels appeared like hungry animals circling their prey. Captain Thran had commanded the Royal Guard for 20 years. He was fast, smart, and experienced. He looked at the human fleet and made his decision in seconds. He turned to Queen Vethra and spoke with no emotion in his voice. "Your Majesty, we cannot hold this position," he said. "The humans are too many. Their weapons are too strong. We must leave now." Queen Vethra stood and looked at the screens. The human ships moved with strange precision. They did not attack yet. They simply waited, surrounding the station like a patient hunter. How long until they reached the inner defense grid? She asked. 20 minutes, Thran said. Maybe less. And our escape route? Clear for now. But that will not last long. Vethra looked at her captain. She understood what he meant. The humans were not just attacking the station. They were attacking the collective itself. This was the moment that would decide if her people survived this war or fell to extinction. "Order the retreat," she said finally. "Get the Royal Guard to the landing bay. Prepare the fastest ships." Captain Thran did not hesitate. He spoke into his communication device. Orders went out to the guard stations throughout the platform. Soldiers began moving. Ships began warming their engines. The evacuation started, but something was wrong. The guards moved too fast. They did not check every section of the station. They did not make sure all important systems were shut down properly. They did not protect the Queen as they should have. Fear made them careless. Fear made them forget their duty. "Captain," Vethra said, "I need a moment to access the diplomatic records. I will not leave them for the humans." Thran nodded. "You have 5 minutes, Your Majesty." "Not more." Vethra moved to her private chamber. The chamber was protected by thick walls and old security systems. Inside, she accessed the hidden files. These files contained something that the other leaders of the collective did not know. For 3 years, she had been planning for peace with the humans. She had written letters. She had created proposals. She had prepared documents that could end this war. But now the war was coming to her dot when she returned to the command center. Captain Thran was already gone. His ship had left the landing bay. The Royal Guard had departed. Only a few servants remained, hiding in the lower levels, hoping to survive what came next. Vethra walked through the corridors of the station. The emergency lights flashed red. The alarm sounds echoed through empty hallways. She could feel the platform shaking as the human ships began their attack. She moved down to the observation chamber. From here, she could see everything. The human warships opened fire. Explosions ripped through the outer defenses. The station shook with each impact. Vethra watched as the collective's mighty defenses crumbled under the human assault. But something else was happening too. Through her private communication channel, she heard voices. Not the voices of her royal guard. Not the voices of the collective forces. These were different voices. They spoke in the human language, using words she had learned during her years of secret peace planning. "All teams, advance to the command levels. Priority 1 is location and protection of the collective leadership. Acknowledge. Copy that. Moving through Section 4 now. No resistance on this level. We have movement in the corridor. Stand by. The humans were inside the station. They were coming for her. Vethra moved quickly. Her security training, something she had always kept private from her war council, took over her mind. She knew the station better than anyone. She understood its passages and its hidden spaces. She moved through corridors that the attacking soldiers would not find for hours, but she also knew that she was trapped. There was no escape pod that would work. The human ships surrounded every exit. There was no ship fast enough to outrun them. There was nowhere to hide that they would not eventually find. She reached a sealed chamber deep inside the command center. This room was built long ago, designed to protect the royal family during the worst attacks. Its doors were 3 meters thick. Its walls were made from materials that could survive nuclear fire. The lock required her personal genetic code to open. Inside, she found the communication terminals. She began accessing the emergency beacon. If she could send the right signal, perhaps someone from the collective would come. Perhaps someone would realize she still lived and send help. The beacon activated just as the outer door of the chamber began to glow from weapons fire. Then the door exploded. Inward, through the smoke and fire, came a single human soldier. His armor was damaged. His uniform was covered in blood and dirt. In his hands, he carried a weapon that was pointed directly at her. Behind him, through the ruined doorway, Vethra could see more figures moving in the corridors. They wore different uniforms. They moved with different speed and purpose. These were not human soldiers from the invasion force. These were assassins. Soldiers from the rival faction within her own collective. Kethral's forces. They had used the human attack as cover. They had slipped onto the station to do what they had always wanted to do. They had come to kill Queen Vethra. The human soldier turned back toward the approaching assassins. He raised his weapon and fired 3 times. 2 of the assassins fell. The third took cover. Then the human turned back to Vethra. He lowered his weapon. "I am Marcus," he said in clear, basic English. "I am here to protect you. You need to move to the back of this chamber. Now." Vethra looked at this small, fragile creature. This human who stood between her and death. She did not understand why he would do this. She did not understand his purpose. But she understood that he meant what he said. She moved backward into the deeper sections of the sealed chamber, and Marcus took position at the destroyed doorway. His weapon ready, his eyes steady, determined to hold the line against whatever came next. The human soldier stood alone against the assassins. Queen Vethra stood behind him, watching this moment of pure human courage. She realized in that instant that everything her people believed about humans was wrong. Marcus had grown up on Earth, a planet that humans called the Death World. Every day on Earth was a test of survival. The gravity was heavy. The weather was violent. The animals were dangerous. Humans had learned to survive in this harsh place by becoming strong, clever, and stubborn. When Marcus turned 18, he joined the human military. He went through training that broke him down and built him back up. He learned to shoot. He learned to fight. He learned to survive in conditions that would kill most species. He learned that the best soldiers were not the ones who wanted to kill the most. The best soldiers were the ones who never wanted to kill at all but would do anything necessary to protect those who could not protect themselves. For 5 years, Marcus served in small conflicts across human space. He fought against pirates. He fought against criminals. He fought in wars that seemed to have no end. But he had never fought against the collective. When the news came that the collective was attacking human colonies, everything changed. Humans had known that war with the collective would come eventually. The two species had been moving toward conflict for decades. Both wanted to control the same star systems. Both wanted to expand their territory. Both believed that coexistence was impossible. Marcus was assigned to the strike force that would assault the collective's orbital station. Command told the soldiers that this was a suicide mission. The station was too big. The defenses were too strong. The goal was to destroy as much of the collective's military power as possible before the station was lost. But Marcus did not think like this. He did not believe in suicide missions. He believed in doing the job and coming home alive. He studied the station's blueprints for hours. He learned every corridor. He memorized every defense system. He understood how the station worked better than most collective soldiers. When the attack began, Marcus led a small team into the station through a maintenance tunnel that almost no one knew about. The tunnel was small and narrow, but it led directly into the command center section. His team moved through the darkness, their weapons ready, their senses sharp. They encountered resistance in the lower levels. Vethra's guards tried to stop them, but the guards were focused on helping the royals escape, not on defending the station. The guards were scattered and disorganized. Marcus and his team moved through them like wind through trees. But something was strange. Marcus expected to find a massive command center full of important leaders. Instead, he found almost nothing. Most of the station was empty. The collective was retreating. They were running from the humans. Then Marcus found the communication logs. He sat at a terminal in an abandoned command office and read through files that he should not have been able to access. But the retreat had been so fast that many security systems were not properly shut down. What he read shocked him. For 3 years, someone in the collective had been sending secret communications to the human government. Someone had been offering terms of peace. Someone had been working to end this war without destroying both civilizations. That someone was Queen Vethra. Marcus read her proposals. He read her plans for coexistence. He read her arguments against the War Council's strategy of total military dominance. She had believed that humans and the collective could work together. She had believed that peace was possible, and the human government had been listening. The highest leaders of the human military knew about her efforts. They had been responding to her messages. They had been planning together how to end this war, but then the situation had changed. A rival faction within the collective, led by someone named Kethril, had discovered the Queen's secret communications. He had used this as proof that she was a traitor to her people. He had gathered support from the war councils. He had made plans to remove her from power and take control of the collective himself. The attack on the station was meant to happen while Kethril was secretly inside the station. While the humans were attacking from outside, Kethril's forces would attack from inside. In the chaos, they would kill the Queen, blame the humans, and take control of the collective government. Marcus realized what this meant. If Vethra died, the chance for peace would die with her. The new government would be run by Kethril, who was even more aggressive than the War Council. He would attack the human colonies with everything the collective had. Millions of humans would die. Millions of collective citizens would die, all because one queen had been brave enough to seek peace. Marcus made a decision that would change his life forever. He deleted all records of his discoveries from the collective computers. He activated his private communication device and sent a message to his command. I have located Queen Vethra. She is in the deep command chambers. I am changing my objective. Priority 1 is now protection and extraction of the collective leadership. I repeat, priority is protection and extraction. Do not attack the deep command chambers. Do not harm any non-combatant collective citizens. Acknowledge. The response came back quickly. His commander understood what he was doing. She understood the importance of what he had found. She gave him new orders. Get to the Queen. Keep her alive. Get her to safety. Do whatever it takes. Marcus moved through the station toward the deep chambers. His weapon was loaded. His armor was charged. He knew that Kethral's assassins were moving through the station too. He knew that a fight was coming. He also knew that he was probably going to die. But he had read the Queen's words. He had seen her vision of peace. He had understood that one human life was worth very little compared to the chance of saving trillions of lives across both civilizations. When he found her in the sealed chamber, he understood immediately what was happening. She was alone. She was trapped. She was facing death from assassins from her own people. And she was waiting for whatever came next with courage that reminded him of humans he had known. Marcus looked at her and made his final decision. He would stand between her and death. He would hold this position. He would not retreat. He would not abandon her. This was his duty. Not because his command had told him to protect her. Not because of politics or treaties or grand strategy. He would stand for her because she deserved someone to stand for her. She had spent 3 years working for peace, while surrounded by people who only wanted war. She had risked everything to save lives. She deserved to live. The assassins were coming up the corridor. Marcus could hear their footsteps. He could hear their weapons charging. He raised his weapon and prepared for what came next. Behind him, Queen Vethra watched this small human creature stand with absolute purpose. She realized that her entire people had underestimated the humans completely. They had thought humans were weak because they had less technology. They had thought humans were easy because they had smaller numbers. They had never understood what humans truly were. They had never understood the power of someone willing to die for another being. They had never understood the strength that came from courage instead of weapons. The first assassins came through the ruined doorway with weapons raised. They moved with the precision of soldiers who had trained for years. They had armor that was stronger than Marcus's armor. They had weapons that were more powerful than his weapons. By all the rules of warfare, they should have killed him in seconds, but they had never fought a human before. Marcus fired 3 shots in quick succession. The first shot killed the lead assassin instantly. The second shot hit the second assassin in the shoulder, spinning him sideways. The third shot went wide as the third assassin dove for cover behind the chamber entrance. Marcus moved fast. He did not wait for return fire. He did not hesitate. He advanced toward the damaged doorway, keeping his weapon up, keeping his eyes sharp. The wounded assassin was reaching for a backup weapon. Marcus shot again, and the assassin stopped moving. 2 down. But there were more coming. Behind Marcus, Queen Vethra heard the combat sounds. She heard the plasma weapons firing. She heard the impacts of energy bolts hitting metal and stone. She heard the human soldier breathing hard, his heart racing, his body burning with adrenaline. She realized that he was truly fighting for her. He was not following orders. He was not performing a duty. He was fighting because he had chosen to. The third assassin returned fire. Plasma bolts filled the air, bright and hot and deadly. One bolt caught Marcus across the shoulder, burning through his armor and searing the skin beneath. Pain shot through his body like lightning. But he did not scream. He did not fall back. He returned fire and moved forward, using the pain to sharpen his focus instead of slow him down. This was what humans did. This was what separated them from every other species in the galaxy. They hurt and kept fighting. They bled and kept moving. They burned and kept standing. The third assassin realized that his weapons were not working the way they should. The human was not supposed to keep fighting after being hit by a plasma bolt. The human was supposed to fall. The human was supposed to die. But this human was still advancing, still shooting, still refusing to go down. Fear began to creep into the assassin's mind. Marcus saw this fear. He knew that the moment an opponent started to doubt, The battle was already decided. He pressed forward, firing controlled shots, moving with purpose. The assassin tried to retreat, to regroup with the other soldiers in the corridor. But Marcus did not let him. He followed the assassin out into the hallway, maintaining fire, keeping pressure on Dot behind him. The Queen realized what she needed to do. Vethra moved to the control panel inside the sealed chamber. Her hands moved across the ancient keyboard. She had studied these systems for years. She understood them in ways that even her military commanders did not. She began to input commands that would activate old security protocols, systems that had been built generations ago and forgotten. The station's defense grid started to respond. Doors locked and unlocked in precise patterns. Escape corridors filled with barriers that could not be broken. The pathways that the assassins were using began to collapse and reform. The human soldier, despite his small size and limited strength, had given her the time she needed to change the rules of combat. But there was a cost to what she was doing. These ancient systems were destroying parts of the station. Sections were being sealed off. Corridors were being flooded with emergency foam. The platform itself was beginning to break apart. Marcus understood this immediately. He could feel the changes happening around him. He could hear the sounds of the station shifting. He ran back toward the sealed chamber, away from the assassins who were now trapped in a collapsing corridor, away from the danger that was closing in from all directions. The sealed chamber door was still open. He threw himself through the entrance just as a piece of ceiling collapsed behind him. Dust and debris filled the air. For a moment, Marcus could not see anything. He could not breathe. He could only feel pain in his shoulder and exhaustion in his muscles. Then the dust cleared, and he saw the Queen standing at the control panel. "How much time?" he asked. 3 minutes, Vethra said. Her voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. "The station integrity is failing. This chamber will collapse soon. There is nowhere left to run." Marcus checked his communication device. It was damaged, but it was still working. "Command, this is Marcus. I have the target. I am requesting immediate extraction from Position Alpha. We need a rescue team at the entry point. We need it now." Static answered him. The communication system was breaking down as the station fell apart. Buildings and machines could not survive the force that was destroying this platform. Marcus and the Queen were trapped in a place that was dying around them. Then the communication cleared. His commander's voice came through, strong and clear. "Extraction team is on approach. ETA is 2 minutes. Hold your position. Do not abandon the target. I repeat, do not abandon the target. We are coming for you." Marcus looked at Vethra. She was calm. She was accepting. She had lived a long time. She had made peace with her fate. But she was also alive, and she was going to stay alive. "We are going to the evacuation point," Marcus said. "We are going to survive this. We are both going to survive." "The assassins?" Vethra asked. "Trapped," Marcus said. "The station is coming down on top of them. Kethral's rebellion is over." Vethra understood what this meant. With Kethral dead, the assassination attempt would be revealed. The truth about her peace efforts would come out. Her people would understand what had happened. The collective government would change. The government that had wanted war would be replaced. The chance for peace would still exist. She had saved her people. And a human had saved her. Marcus moved to the doorway. Outside the chamber, the station was falling apart. Corridors were twisting. Walls were breaking. The entire structure was becoming unstable. They had to run. They had to move fast. They had to make it to the landing bay before everything collapsed completely. "Come with me," Marcus said. Vethra followed him into the dying station. They ran through corridors that were cracking and shifting. They jumped across gaps that opened in the floor. They avoided falling debris that was sharp and heavy enough to kill. Marcus was injured and exhausted. The Queen had never run this way in her life. But they moved forward together, and behind them, the station continued to collapse. The sealed chamber where they had stood was crushed by falling metal and concrete. The corridor where the assassins were trapped was swallowed by the destruction. Everything was being destroyed. Everything was falling into chaos, but Marcus and Vethra were still alive. They were still moving. They were still fighting. The extraction point was ahead. Marcus could see the landing bay entrance. A human shuttle was waiting there, its engines hot, its doors open. The rescue team was firing at assassin forces that were still trying to stop them. Marcus pushed the Queen forward. She stumbled, but stayed on her feet. They were close now. So close. The shuttle entrance was only 50 meters away. Then 40. Then 30. A piece of ceiling fell between them and the shuttle, blocking the path. Marcus grabbed the Queen and changed direction, finding another route. His shoulder was on fire with pain. His legs were barely responding. But he did not stop. 20 meters. 10 meters. They fell through the shuttle entrance together just as the landing bay collapsed behind them. The shuttle doors slammed shut. The engines ignited. The human vessel rose away from the dying station, away from Kethral's assassins, away from the destruction. Marcus lay on the cold floor of the shuttle, his body burning, his mind fading. Above him, Queen Vethra looked down at the human soldier who had saved her life. She understood now why the humans were so dangerous to the collective. It was not because of their weapons. It was because they never stopped fighting. It was because they stood for others, even when standing meant death. The human had shown her something her entire civilization had forgotten. He had shown her the meaning of true strength. The medical bay of the human transport ship was cold and clean. Everything smelled like disinfectant and machines. Marcus woke up floating in a recovery tank filled with thick gel that helped his body heal faster. His eyes could not focus at first. His mind was foggy. He did not know how much time had passed. The doctors told him later that 3 weeks had gone by since the rescue. His body had been severely damaged. The plasma burn on his shoulder had destroyed deep tissue. He had broken 2 ribs during the escape. His hands had been cut and burned from the extreme heat of the collapsing station. He had lost a lot of blood. By all medical calculations, he should have died. But humans were built to survive. Their bodies could recover from injuries that would kill other species. Their minds could focus on survival, even when their bodies screamed for rest. Marcus woke up and began the long process of healing. During the 2nd week in the recovery tank, Queen Vethra came to see him. She stood outside the transparent tank, watching the human soldier float in the healing gel. She wore a simple human medical gown because her own people had no representatives near the human fleet. She was technically a prisoner of war. She was also technically the queen of the collective. No one was quite sure how to treat her. When Marcus could finally move, he asked to be moved to a normal medical bed. The doctors were worried that he was healing too fast, that his human body was pushing too hard to recover. But Marcus told them that he needed to speak with the Queen. Vethra sat beside his bed. She moved carefully, as if uncertain how to sit in a human chair. She looked at Marcus with her alien eyes that somehow expressed feelings that humans understood. "You risked your life for someone you did not know," she said. Her voice was steady but quiet. This is not how most species would behave. Even humans would not usually do this. Marcus tried to smile, but his muscles were still healing. His face moved awkwardly. "My people have a saying, no one fights alone. That means we do not leave people behind. We do not abandon someone just because they are different. We do not let someone face death alone if we can stand with them. But you will probably never recover fully," Vethra said. She pointed at his shoulder. The burn had healed enough that the pink new skin was visible. You will carry the scars from what you did for me. You will carry the pain for the rest of your life. That is okay, Marcus said. The scar means something. It means I did something that mattered. Vethra was quiet for a long time. She studied the human soldier in ways that her people had never studied humans before. She realized that her civilization had spent so much time measuring strength in weapons and technology that they had forgotten to measure the strength that came from inside. My government wants to negotiate with yours, she said finally. They understand now what happened at the station. They know that Kethril was trying to take power. They know that I was working for peace. The War Council has been removed. A new council is forming. They want to talk about ending this war. That is good, Marcus said. It would not have happened without you, Vethra said. If you had followed your original orders, my station would have been destroyed. I would have been killed, and the humans would have thought it was from my own people. Kethril would have taken power. He would have started a new phase of the war. Millions would have died. Marcus did not say anything. He was not thinking about millions of deaths. He was only thinking about one queen who had been alone and facing death. The human government has offered me protection, Vethra continued. They say that if I return to the collective now, Kethril's supporters might try to kill me. They are offering me a place on this ship until the peace negotiations are complete. What do you want to do? Marcus asked. I want to speak with your leaders, Vethra said. I want to tell them everything I have learned about your species. I want to tell them how wrong we have been. I want to tell them that the collective government is ready for peace. Over the next 3 weeks, Marcus healed while Vethra met with the highest human military commanders. She shared everything she knew about the collective. She revealed the locations of military bases. She explained the weaknesses in their defense systems. She could have given the humans the tools to destroy her entire civilization, but she did not do this. Instead, she told the humans how to make peace. She explained how the collective government could be changed. She described the leaders who wanted peace and the leaders who wanted war. She showed the humans exactly how to help her people choose the right path. The human commanders listened to her. They understood that she was offering them something more valuable than victory. She was offering them the chance to end the war without destroying 2 civilizations. She was offering them a way to save lives. Messages went back and forth between the human fleet and the collective government. Proposals were sent. Agreements were drafted. Slowly, a plan came together. A neutral station would be prepared. Both governments would send representatives. A treaty would be negotiated, and Queen Vethra would be the one to sign it. When the negotiations began, Marcus was still healing in the medical bay, but he had been moved to a station where he could watch on screens. He could see the Queen standing in the negotiation chamber. He could see her speaking with human diplomats and collective representatives. He could see her working to build the peace that she had been planning for 3 years. On the day that the Treaty of Mutual Recognition was signed, Vethra came to see Marcus again. This time, he was able to stand, though his movements were slow and careful. They stood together, looking out at the stars. This would not have happened without you, Vethra said again. This happened because you were brave enough to work for peace, Marcus said. I just helped keep you alive long enough for that peace to be born. That is not true, Vethra said. You did more than keep me alive. You showed my people what we had forgotten. You showed us that strength is not measured in weapons. You showed us that one being can matter so much that they change the fate of entire civilizations. The human commanders offered Marcus many honors. They offered him medals and ceremonies and positions of great importance. But Marcus refused all of them. He asked for only one thing. He asked to be assigned to the Joint Human Collective Science Initiative, a research station that would be built to bring both species together. Queen Vethra also requested assignment to the initiative. The human government agreed. They understood the significance of what was being built. A human and an alien working together, trying to find solutions to problems that no single civilization could solve alone. It was the beginning of something new. It was the beginning of something that the galaxy had never seen before. On the day that Marcus walked off the transport ship and onto the new research station, his shoulders still hurt. His movements were still limited. His scars were still visible. But when he saw Queen Vethra waiting for him at the entrance, he understood that it had all been worth it. The human soldier had stood alone, and in doing so, he had changed the course of galactic history. Not through weapons or military might, not through political power or clever strategy. He had changed history by simply refusing to let someone face death alone. And that was the power of humanity. 6 months after the Treaty of Mutual Recognition was signed, Marcus returned to active duty. His scars had faded to white lines that ran across his shoulder and down his arm. The doctors said his healing was complete. They said he could return to normal military service. They offered him command positions and training roles. They told him he could become a general if he wanted. Marcus said no to all of it. Instead, he walked through the corridors of the Joint Human Collective Science Initiative station. The station orbited a small planet that had been chosen as neutral ground. Here, humans and aliens worked together on problems that neither species could solve alone. They studied how to clean poisoned worlds. They researched how to build stronger materials. They worked on technologies that could benefit everyone. Marcus had never been a scientist. He had no training in research or advanced mathematics. But he understood something that the leaders of both civilizations were beginning to understand. The greatest discoveries did not come from weapons or military power. They came from beings who were willing to work together toward a common goal. On his first day at the station, Marcus met with the other researchers. There were humans from Earth and the colonies. There were collective citizens from dozens of different worlds. They were engineers and biologists and physicists and mathematicians. They were beings who had been enemies just months before. Now they were colleagues. Queen Vethra was in her office when Marcus arrived at the station. The office was large but simple. She had rejected the government's offer to provide her with royal quarters. Instead, she had requested a standard research station room. She wanted to live like the other scientists on the station. She wanted to be part of the work, not above it. When Marcus entered her office, she stood and greeted him with a traditional human handshake. She had spent the last 6 months learning human customs. She had studied human history and human philosophy. She had read human literature and poetry. She was trying to understand the human species in ways that her people had never attempted before. "Welcome," she said. "I hope the travel was not difficult." "No," Marcus said. "It was smooth. I am glad to be here." They sat together and looked at the work that the station was doing. Vethra showed him the research projects that were being conducted. She showed him laboratories where humans and collective scientists were collaborating. She showed him something that seemed impossible just 1 year before. 2 species working together without conflict, without fear, without weapons. "The work is going well," Vethra said. "But there is still resistance. Some humans do not trust us. Some collective citizens do not want this peace. The old ways of thinking are hard to change." "Change is always hard," Marcus said. "But we will keep working. We will show them that cooperation is possible." "You believe that so strongly," Vethra said. "I wonder why. You nearly died for someone you did not know. You carry the physical marks of that decision. You will carry them for the rest of your life. Most beings would feel regret about such sacrifices." Marcus looked at his scarred shoulder. The white lines were visible beneath his uniform sleeve. He had thought about these scars every day for 6 months. He had thought about the pain they represented. He had thought about the cost of what he had done. "I do not feel regret," he said finally. "I feel like I did something that mattered. I feel like I made the right choice." Vethra stood and moved to the observation window. Through the glass, they could see the small planet below. It was a world that neither humans nor the collective had been able to colonize. The atmosphere was toxic. The soil was poisoned. The water was undrinkable. But the research station was working on ways to change this. They were developing technologies that could transform this dead world into a living one. When they succeeded, both species would be able to settle here. Both species would share the world they had created together. "I have been thinking about why I chose to work for peace," Vethra said. "I told my government that it was the logical choice. I told them that war would cost more lives than peace. I told them that coexistence was possible. All of these things were true. But I know now that the real reason was different." "What was the real reason?" Marcus asked. "I did not want to be alone," Vethra said. "My government was pushing toward war. My military commanders wanted endless conflict. My people did not understand that there was another way. I was alone in believing that peace was possible. For 3 years, I was completely alone." She turned away from the window and looked at Marcus. "And then I was truly alone," she continued. "I was in that sealed chamber, and I was waiting to die. I had my chance to escape. I had my chance to save myself. But I chose to stay and face what was coming, because I could not leave my people without trying to change their future. That choice made me even more alone." "But you were not alone," Marcus said. "I was there." "Yes," Vethra said. "You were there. A human, an alien, someone from a species that my people had called weak and simple. And you stood for me. You did not have to. Your government had not ordered you to protect me specifically. You made that choice yourself. You chose not to let me die alone." Vethra moved back to her desk and sat down. "That changed everything," she said. "It changed how I see your species. It changed how I see myself. It changed how I see what is possible." Over the following months, Marcus and Vethra worked together at the research station. Marcus was not a scientist, but he understood how to help scientists work together. He understood how to translate between human and collective ways of thinking. He understood how to help them find common ground. Vethra learned to operate in this new role too. She was no longer just a queen giving orders. She was a researcher and a teacher and a bridge between two civilizations. She worked with humans on projects that interested her. She taught collective scientists about human approaches to problem solving. She learned that leadership did not have to come from power. It could come from respect and trust. One evening, they stood together again at the observation window. The small planet below had changed in the months since they had arrived. The first patches of new vegetation were beginning to grow in areas where the collective scientists had cleaned the soil. The first clean water was being produced in areas where the human engineers had built new purification systems. The dead world was becoming alive. "A year ago, we were enemies," Vethra said. "We had never spoken. We did not know each other's names. We belonged to species that did not trust each other. A year ago, we were at war," Marcus said. "A lot of beings from both our species died because of that war. And now we are creating something new," Vethra said. "We are showing our people that there is another way. We are proving that cooperation is stronger than conflict. We are building a future that neither of our species could build alone." Marcus thought about the journey that had brought them here. He thought about the moment in the sealed chamber when he had made the choice to stand. He thought about how that one choice had changed everything. "I often think about what would have happened if I had not stood for you," he said. "What if I had followed my original orders? What if I had let the station be destroyed and let you die with it? The war would have continued, Vethra said. Millions would have died. My civilization would have eventually lost, because humans did not stop fighting. But we would have caused so much suffering before the end came. All the lives that have been saved by this peace would have been lost. And it all came down to one choice, Marcus said. The choice to stand for you. The choice to not let you face death alone. It came down to something deeper than choice, Vethra said. It came down to the fundamental nature of what you are. It came down to human compassion. It came down to human courage. It came down to human sacrifice. They stood together in silence, watching the world below grow. The scars on Marcus's body had turned into white lines that barely showed in certain light. But every time he thought about them, he remembered that moment in the sealed chamber. He remembered the moment when a human soldier and an alien queen had realized that they could trust each other. He remembered the moment when one being had chosen to matter to another, and that memory was worth all the pain. Years later, when historians looked back on this period of galactic history, they would mark the beginning of the new age as the signing of the Treaty of Mutual Recognition. They would write about the negotiations and the political decisions and the strategic choices that made peace possible. But the true beginning had come much earlier. It had come in a sealed chamber on a dying station, when a human soldier had stood between an alien queen and death. It had come from the simple choice to not let someone face darkness alone. That was the moment when the galaxy had begun to change. That was the moment when two species had learned that their greatest strength was not in their weapons or their technology. Their greatest strength was in their ability to care for each other, to stand for each other, to refuse to let any being face the darkness alone. And from that single moment of human courage, a new future had been born.